Okay, so imagine for a second a man who could be painting his granddaughter's toenails one afternoon and then commit a double murder just a few hours later. It sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, today we're diving into the absolutely chilling and very real story of Jose Manuel Martinez. He was a man who lived two lives so completely different it's almost impossible to believe they belong to the same person.
I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got the loving grandfather, the rock of his family, and on the other, one of the most prolific and feared contract killers in American history. So the big question is, how on earth did one man manage to keep this terrifying double life going for decades? That's what we're going to try and unpack here.
So our story really kicks off in a place you would never, ever expect. Picture this. It's a quiet Sunday afternoon in Alabama. Inside a totally normal house, a grandfather is carefully painting his little granddaughter's toenails. To everyone who knew him, he was just that charming neighbor, the perfect picture of a gentle family man.
But that same exact man had another name, a name that was whispered in the shadows. El Mano Negra, the Black Hand. For almost 4 decades, he was a total ghost, a contract killer for the cartels who left a trail of bodies all across the country, all while hiding in plain sight.
So, to understand how this charming grandfather became El Mano Negra, we have to go way back to 1978, in the dusty vineyards of early Mark, California, because that's where one single brutal event happened that would change the entire course of his life, forever.
Martinez, you see, grew up in a pretty tough environment. His stepfather was a drug dealer, and by the time he was just a teenager, Martinez was already working for him as a courier, using his American citizenship to slip back and forth across the border. But that dangerous world became tragic when his sister, Cecilia, was murdered.
And this is the moment where everything just snapped. In his own words, Martinez said he was a nice man until that day. That moment of grief didn't just break him, it completely remade him into something else. It lit a fire inside him, a thirst for revenge that would literally never be put out.
And you can see just how fast things escalated. The very same year his sister was killed, he was just 16 years old, he hunted down her killers and committed a triple homicide. Just 1 year later, he took his first contract killing, for only $500. By 1982, he was working for the cartels. The transformation from grieving brother to professional killer was complete.
So what started as this deeply personal quest for vengeance, well, it twisted and hardened into a deadly profession. For the next 30 years, Jose Manuel Martinez would perfect the art of killing for money.
And he wasn't just some random hitman. He worked for a really high-level operative known only as Mr. X, who was likely from the Sinaloa Cartel, one of the most powerful and violent drug organizations in the world. His official title? A collector. So when someone owed the cartel money or drugs, they sent Martinez to collect that debt, one way or another.
And his method was just chillingly professional. It was surgical, not messy or chaotic. He liked to use handguns and zip ties, leaving very few clues behind. He moved like a ghost because he had zero personal connection to his victims, and he usually targeted people on the margins of society, people whose disappearances wouldn't set off a massive manhunt. And for police, this was an absolute nightmare. They just had a string of seemingly random, unconnected murders stretching across state lines.
Okay, and this brings us to what is, for me, the most disturbing part of his entire story, the psychology of it all. His almost inhuman ability to compartmentalize, to switch between these two worlds, to be a ruthless killer one moment and a loving family man the very next.
Let me give you a specific case that just perfectly illustrates this double life. The year is 2006, it's November, and Martinez is in Florida, on a job.
His target was a young guy named Javier Huerta, who was accused of stealing cocaine. Martinez stalked him, executed both him and a colleague, bound them with zip ties, and left their bodies in a truck. And what did he do afterwards? He sat in that same truck and calmly smoked a cigarette, almost like he'd just finished a long day at a construction site.
But just a few hours after committing this brutal double murder, Martinez was on a plane, not to flee or hide, but to go to a birthday party. He landed in Alabama and immediately stepped right back into his other life. And get this, using the blood money he had just earned, he took his granddaughter to Toys R Us. He went from a cold-blooded executioner to a generous grandpa in the span of an afternoon without missing a single beat.
The psychological wall you'd have to build to do that, it's just staggering. For over 30 years, this guy was untouchable. He even beat a lie detector test once by just staying perfectly calm. So, how did it all come crashing down? Well, in a really cruel twist of fate, the very thing he claimed he killed for, his family, would be his undoing.
I mean, this was the question that haunted law enforcement for decades. How in the world do you catch a professional killer who leaves no witnesses, no evidence, and has no personal connection to his victims?
It wasn't some huge cartel bust or a botched job that finally did him in. It was his pride. A simple insult, directed at his daughter, would be the one mistake that finally brought this ghost out of the shadows.
So here's what happened. A man named Jose Ruiz insulted Martinez's daughter. Now, Martinez didn't react right away. He waited for weeks. Then he came back to Alabama, lured Ruiz out to a park, and right before he killed him, he told him exactly why he was about to die. This one, it was personal, not professional. And personal mistakes, well, they leave a trail.
And this is the almost comically mundane detail that ended it all. After 30 years of phantom-like killings, his entire criminal empire was completely unraveled by a single Walmart receipt and a witness from that final pride-fueled murder.
So with that one mistake, the ghost was finally caught. But believe it or not, the biggest shock was still to come. Because when he was finally in custody, he didn't fight it. He started talking. A lot.
He sat in a car with a detective, they were sharing a pizza, and he just calmly confessed. Not to one murder, or two. He confessed to 40. He listed them off, one by one, with this clinical precision that left veteran homicide detectives absolutely stunned.
And what was his rationalization for all of it? If I hadn't done the job, someone else would have. He just saw himself as a cog in a machine, a guy doing a job. It's such a chilling glimpse into the mind of someone who could so completely separate the act of killing from any kind of morality.
You see, Jose Manuel Martinez wasn't some monster lurking in the shadows. He was the monster next door, the friendly neighbor, the loving grandfather. And his story forces us to ask a really unsettling question. How many other black hands are out there hiding behind ordinary faces, just waiting for their moment?
He left deputies texting their bosses in absolute disbelief. And his justification for all of it? This right here. This chillingly pragmatic statement. To him, it was just a job. He saw himself as nothing more than an interchangeable part in the brutal machine of the drug trade. Today, Jose Manuel Martinez is serving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. The story of El Mano Negra, the contract killer, has come to a definitive end inside the justice system.
You know, in the end, his long career wasn't just a testament to his own discipline and this crazy duality he had. It was also a reflection of a system that often failed to connect the dots, and a society that maybe too often overlooked the lives of the people he targeted.
And it leaves us with this one really haunting question. If a man can be both a beloved grandfather and one of America's most prolific killers, painting his granddaughter's toenails one day and collecting a cartel debt the next, how many other monsters are out there hiding in plain sight?